Greetings, this is Tanaka Ranich Ndom representing Golden Cloud Network. We're here to share knowledge and experience which can help fill the knowledge gap between you and a better future, between you and better decisions. And this does not apply to individuals, it also applies to collectives and groups from a company level to a national level. So today we're going to be talking about the lessons that we can learn from the rise of China as Zimbabweans. But before we go there, we ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel before you proceed to view this video. So one thing that China and Zimbabwe have in common is that they were both subject to international or foreign rule. The only difference is Zimbabwe was completely colonized by Britain, whereas China was rather chopped up into different spheres of influence. Territories in China were conquered by foreign powers and they were ruled by foreign powers under the nose of the Chinese authorities. This resulted in a period of great humiliation for the people of China. And the people of China made a decision. They made a decision to redeem themselves. This is what we're trying to study on this presentation so that we can apply it to our own countries in Africa. Because let's be honest, post-independence, Africa may be independent, but we haven't reached that level of supremacy that we all desire. But we can learn from China, which has now reached this level of supremacy as it is currently the global economic power, the number one global economic power. So there are 4 lessons that we can take from the rise of China, which we have listed down and which we're going to read to you. Number 1, the value of national dignity and sovereignty. Number 2, economic alchemy. Number 3, population empowerment. Number 4, governance and policy implementation. So before we go far, we have to look at this history and pose a question that is Zimbabwe truly independent? Is Zimbabwe truly sovereign rather? Okay, so the first thing that we can learn from China is that the unspoken attitude of national dignity and sovereignty. China understood the brutal reality of the world. If you're not a predator in this world, you are a prey. And if you become a predator, you will now be able to hunt down prey with other predators. This is the reality. I pose a question to the audience right now. Is Zimbabwe as it stands, is it a predator or is it a prey? Maybe to help you answer this question, let's touch on the difference between a predator and a prey. A predator has more physical strength, it has more speed, and it has claws and sharp teeth that help the predator hunt. And a predator hunts in groups, and a predator has excellent senses. But how can we translate this on a national level? Well, we can look at China. China's main areas of focus throughout its course of development. These are the areas in which China focused on to ensure that it is a predator, not a prey in the global world order. Number 1, military modernization, to never be vulnerable again. Number 2, technological self-sufficiency, to avoid being dependent on potential rivals for technology. Number 3, infrastructure integration, to promote unity against fragmentation. Number 4, state-led development, to promote stable national interests as opposed to individual interests. So these are the 4 characteristics that makes a country sovereign. These are the 4 characteristics that make a country a predator rather than a prey. So these are 4 points that we can learn firstly as Zimbabweans. These must be the areas of focus for every Zimbabwean, from nursery school to working class to the developers. If we're able to focus on these 4 points, that each of us can contribute in one way or another, which will ensure us to reach this level of sovereignty that China managed to reach. Besides this, let's touch on the subject of economic alchemy. What is it? So according to us, economic alchemy is the ability to create a stable, predictable, and well-structured environment that is well suited for solving problems for investors. We have to understand that we don't live on an island. We all depend on each other. And in doing that, some might want to invest in a different environment which does not have what the other investors can offer. This is just how it's done. So when we eat food, for example, we're supposed to get energy, we're supposed to get strong, we're supposed to grow, we're supposed to glow. Why? Because when our healthy bodies have a stable, predictable, and well-structured environments, the body is able to receive and use the food that we eat. But when our bodies are sick, that process is disturbed. The same can be likened to a good economy. When people invest in a healthy economy, they're supposed to get good returns. But if the economy is unhealthy, then this doesn't happen. So we can say economic alchemy is also the science of treating a sick economy and making it healthy again. And this is what China focused on. How did China do this exactly? So there are many ways in which China did this, and we're going to list them. Number one, empowering state-owned banks by making them policy banks. Number two, developing sovereign wealth funds. Number three, promoting foreign direct investments. So before we go further, we have to make a disclaimer that we're not experts in finance and economics, but we're just going to break down what we understood, and we're going to share it with you on a simple level that is able to be absorbed by the general public. So the goal in economic alchemy is to create a system that works, right? A system that we can all use to better our lives. The system needs money to work. So the first task that China and Zimbabwe has to do is to raise money for the system. I mean, China already did this. What we have to do to emulate China is to raise as much money as possible for our systems to work. So this is where policy banks come in. These banks have the power to tax people, and tax is how governments raise money. So the money raised by policy banks would then be used to fund infrastructure development projects with long-term horizons. We cannot ask this kind of money because a lot of money is needed to do this. We cannot ask this money from other foreign banks because the conditions will be harsh. But if we're able to source this money for ourselves, we can invest with long-term horizons that are favorable for us as a country. And to achieve this, policy banks have to be creative and use policies which ensure all stakeholders on these projects benefit. So examples of such policies are the following. Number one, land value capture. This is when people capitalize from the rise in value of a certain land. For example, property tax. If the government notices that, hey, this environment is booming, this environment is growing, they then impose certain property taxes on areas in this environment, which will help raise money. So they're just taking advantage of something that just happened organically, and they come in because they see an opportunity to make money. This is just an example of land value capture on a simple note. Land tax, land and property tax. Number two, build, operate, and transfer. So the government can come in and allow a foreign company or a local company to build a certain infrastructure, and then operate this infrastructure, collecting money, making money from the infrastructure that it has developed. And after a period of time, this company has to transfer this infrastructure in the hands of the government so that the government can take over and make money. How does the government benefit from this? Number one, it has gained infrastructure, and number two, it can now start to use that infrastructure to generate money. How do the investors benefit from this? They get to build and they get to make money for a certain period of time, and they can actually get their returns from the period of time that is given if they know what they are doing. So when a country is unstable, no foreign groups are interested in investing in it. So there's this other point of foreign direct investments, which is expected to boost a country's economy. But when a country's economy isn't performing well, this may be tricky. This is why China resorted to FDI round tripping as a consolidation measure. So FDI round tripping is when capital is transferred from a country of origin to another country and then reinvested in the same country where it came from. So this may sound like a hack in theory, but practically it is a mastered art. That's enough economy. That's enough economic alchemy for today. Let's move on to population empowerment. So China created a good balance in its country. They recognized the uneven distribution of opportunity among its people and focused on empowering its rural population. The more the empowered people in the market means that the more productivity and security, which can help feed the collective national growth and development. So China started investing in rural roads and storage, and they invested in township and village enterprises, linking subsidiary workers to larger formalized companies so that they can produce more and contribute more to national output. So when it comes to industrialization, China did not start heavy. China started simple by manufacturing goods for the purpose of export, small things, until they gradually evolved to heavy industry and technology manufacturing. Now they're manufacturing phones, now they're manufacturing cars. But they might have started by just manufacturing simple things such as plastic buckets. So a practical example for Zimbabwe is starting with manufacturing lithium batteries and cotton textiles, just to put in context. Another interesting method China used is designating zones for in China rather, for diaspora investments via Hong Kong and Taiwan. They developed what they called a diaspora industrial park. They noticed that a lot of their population is outside, and they harnessed the wealth that was being generated by those individuals, the individual citizens, and they consolidated it into one thing, into an area of diaspora investments, which can benefit both the country through development and the people that are investing in this diaspora investment fund. And for industrialization, China operated solely through state-owned enterprises instead of wholesale privatization. And these state-owned enterprises were supported through performance-based contracts, which promoted competency and efficiency. So sometimes we may be tempted to make certain shortcuts. But China made sure that it created a system where each and every state-owned enterprise that is operating for the development of China had to be competent and they had to be efficient. And if they were not, they were cut off. Another useful strategy used during industrialization was aligning vocational training institutions with specific industry needs. For example, we have universities here in Zimbabwe. That universities specialize in teaching the skills that are needed to develop Zimbabwe. For example, we're weak in industries, the vocational training centers in China, when they realized their areas of weaknesses, they made sure that they aligned and calibrated their university so that they can teach and focus on the areas that are missing in the country so that they can be translated into tangible results that can be applied in the country. Lastly, China utilized a performance-based evaluation metrics to appoint officials in any department. For example, ministers. Ministers were not just appointed, but they were appointed on merit. They were appointed based on the things that they have done, their track record, the things that they were able to achieve, and how well they're performing right now when they're on that current official seat. So this is how China managed to boost its economy. And these are few of the lessons that we can learn from it. We cannot cover everything because it's a lot. But for today, let's settle on this. We hope that you've gained something, and we hope that you can translate this video into something that you can use in your day-to-day lives, individually or collectively. Thank you so much for your time.